The room had the kind of quiet that made every machine sound louder. A humidifier sighed. A heart monitor ticked its metronome. Pale light spilled through blinds, stacking the floor with stripes. Beneath a fleece blanket patterned with tiny stars, Sophia Müller lay very still, lashes like ink commas against her cheeks, a curl of blonde hair caught in medical tape near her ear. Her father, Daniel Müller, had made a home out of the chair by her bed. He sat with elbows on his knees, hands trembling around hers, whispering in a mix of German and broken Swahili. Doctors called it an acute cerebral shutdown, a phrase that sounded more like surrender than science. On Thursday afternoon, cameras and security arrived before the man himself. Baraka Otieno, a billionaire in a beige linen suit and flashing a PR smile, entered flanked by guards. He promised miracles, imported neurologists, AI diagnostics, even a VR headset pressed to Sophia's closed eyes. Machines will wake her, he declared, but the machines only hummed, specialists left with their briefcases in shame. By Sunday evening, Baraka himself stopped visiting. His promise of fixing a little girl collapsed into silence. Night sank deep into Nairobi. Daniel sat by his daughter's side and spoke into the stillness. Stories of jacaranda blossoms spilling purple into gutters, the shadow of Mount Kenya at dawn, and the memory of her mother's laughter. But beneath, his words lay the truth he could not yet speak. Guilt. I should have been there, he murmured. I traded shoelaces and smiles for meetings and reports. His throat cracked as he hummed a lullaby his grandmother once sang. Schlaf, kleines, Herz, schlaf ein. The tune fell apart halfway like a bridge collapsing under its own weight. The corridor was quiet when a small voice spoke. Barefoot in a frayed hoodie stood Mwangi, no older than 11. His eyes were steady, too old for his face. Is she yours? He asked. Daniel nodded. I can help her. It wasn't arrogance, not hope. It was certainty. Mwangi stepped to Sophia's side and placed his hand gently on her temple. She is listening from far away, he said softly. But she's waiting for your truth, the pain you've hidden. Daniel broke. He confessed in raw, shattered whispers. How he wasn't home. How he missed her warning signs. How he thought he had traded his daughter for work. His tears darkened the blanket. The monitor blipped, just once, but different. Mwangi withdrew his hand. That's enough for today, he said. Tomorrow, maybe. And before Daniel could ask another question, the boy was gone. Dawn unspooled over Nairobi in a wash of peach and gold, and the city stretched. Matatus coughing awake, bodabodas stitching traffic into motion. Inside Uhuru General, the night's hush peeled back. Daniel Müller hadn't moved from the chair. His neck ached from sleeping crooked, forehead creased where it had rested on the mattress. He could still feel the phantom warmth of a small hand twitching beneath his cheek, the shy hello of a world returning. When the new nurse came on shift, Daniel told her about the boy, the bare feet, the frayed cuffs, the steadiness in his eyes. She tapped her tablet, frowned, scrolled. No visitor signed in, she said. Security rewound the corridor cameras. Frames leapt and jittered, orderlies passing, a doctor yawning. But Mwangi never existed in their glassy memory. Daniel didn't argue. He only looked at Sophia, at the minute swell and fall of her chest, at the pulse number that had never seemed so alive. He knew what he had seen, what he had felt. Certainty like a nail driven clean through fear. Somewhere between sterile air and city light, a door had opened. Whether the cameras had noticed, it didn't matter. Evening returned with the scent of rain, the kind that gathers its courage over the Ngong Hills before breaking. The door eased open, almost shy, and Mwangi stood there again. Same hoodie, same bare feet, same calm threaded through his small frame. I said I'd come back, he murmured. He touched Sophia's wrist, eyelids lowered as if listening to a language no one else could hear. She's closer today, he said. Your words reached her, but now she needs the song. The word fell like a stone into a still pond. Daniel flinched. There was only one song, the lullaby carried from a grandmother's lips in Nairobi, a melody he'd packed away with grief. He shook his head, breath catching on old sorrow. "You remember it," Mwangi said gently. "And so does she." So Daniel sat. He cradled Sophia's hand in both of his and let the first note find him, like a bird finding an old branch. Soft, cracked, faithful. Kuna Mwanga Gizani, Nyota Mvua Ikinyesha, Schlaf, kleines Herz, Schlaf ein. A braided hymn of Swahili and German crossed the sterile air. Monitors did not blaze with miracle. They simply shifted, a steady rising, like tide meeting shore. Sophia's fingers twitched, once, twice answering a song that knew the way home. Nurses have a sixth sense for the shift you can't chart. The on-duty nurse paused mid-note taking, eyes lifting from the clipboard to the rhythm blooming on the monitor. "She's reacting to the music," she breathed, wonder snagging on her words. Daniel kept singing, quieter now, like speaking to dawn before it knows it's morning, while Mwangi watched with the gravity of an elder. The room, once a place of unanswered questions, carried a new weight. Not the heavy of fear, but the seriousness of returning. The lullaby stitched together what machines could not. A father's apology, threaded through memory. A child's breadcrumb, trail back from the far woods. And for the first time in days the air felt warm. Not heater warm, human warm. "You gave her something to come back to," Mwangi said. "Now she knows the way." Daniel nodded, unable to speak. Talking would loosen the knot he needed to keep tied long enough to finish the song. Note by note, he stood a lighthouse on a shore Sophia could recognize. When the final note settled, the room listened to itself. Soft beeps, soft breaths, soft heartbeat of a city on the other side of the window. Daniel turned. "Why are you helping us?" Mwangi didn't answer right away. He looked at the bed, at a little girl who had learned quiet too quickly, then past her as if seeing another bed in another season. "I lay in a place like this once," he said. "Small and scared. No songs. No hand holding mine. I waited for footsteps that didn't come. Silence pressed its palm to the glass. I promised that if I ever found a way to change that for someone else I would," he said simply. "So I come when I'm needed. I remember what others forget." Daniel's eyes filled, vision glazing the way it does when truth knocks twice. "You're," he began, then let the word break. "An angel?" Mwangi's mouth tilted. Not quite a smile. Not quite not. "I'm a reminder," he said. He turned to Sophia and whispered where only she could hear. "Umeonekana, you've been found." He moved toward the door. Daniel reached out, then stopped. The grip he wanted was the old one, to hold, to keep. This was a different kind of gift. Night eased over the ward like a shawl. Daniel did not leave. He wrote nothing down. He would not risk pinning a butterfly before it learned to fly. Instead, he kept the vigil, with tea cooling at his elbow, with the song now folded into a hum, with a heart emptied of pretense and filled with practice. "Kuna Mwanga Gizani," he breathed, not to perform, but to be. A metronome of love beating time for a child between two shores. And the monitors, those stubborn little historians, agreed. Brainwaves steadier, pulse warm as a held hand. He stepped into the corridor for air and found only quiet. No cameras, no curious staff, no miracle on parade. Just the hum of lights and the soft thud of his own shoes. Somewhere behind him, a small voice he couldn't tell was memory or presence said, "She doesn't need me as much now. She has you." He turned no one. He smiled anyway. Back in the room, Sophia's eyelids trembled like moth wings against glass. Not open, not yet. But the room knew. Healing had begun before waking, and tomorrow had started tonight. The ICU floor was hushed, the kind of silence that holds its breath. Nurses moved like whispers, Machines blinked in steady rhythm. And in room 317, a father's voice wove through the air like thread binding two torn pieces of cloth. Daniel Müller had sung until his throat rasped raw, the lullaby now less a song and more a heartbeat echo. Then at 6:02 a.m., it happened. A small hand, limp for 7 days, stirred. Sophia's right hand shifted, fingers searching. Daniel's chest collapsed into sobs as he felt her reach for him. Not prompted, not tested. Her movement was hers. Daddy. The word broke from her lips like dawn from horizon. He clutched her, shaking, crying the way men cry when they realize the world is not only cruel, it can be merciful too. News spread fast. Reporters pressed at the gates, whispers slithered through the halls. Miracles are hard to contain. And miracles, Baraka Otieno knew, could be profitable. He strode back into Uhuru General, his entourage trailing cameras claiming the story as his victory. But Daniel was different now. No longer bent, no longer silent. He stood tall, his voice carrying in the corridor. You didn't bring my daughter back. You tried to turn her into a showcase for your machines. What you hide is worse than failure. Baraka's jaw tightened. Daniel held out papers, old land documents from Nyeri, Sophia's grandmother's land. Land Caribou Holdings had quietly seized, swallowing families beneath false signatures. You tried to steal from the dead and silence the living, Daniel thundered. The cameras kept rolling. And Baraka, so used to writing his own script, found himself standing in a different story. One where wealth could not drown truth. That afternoon, Daniel left the hospital for the first time in days. He didn't go for food or rest. He went for a small spiral notebook, the kind children use in school. He returned with it tucked under his arm, pen ready. By Sophia's bedside, he began to write. Lullabies, half-remembered fairy tales, promises, prayers. He wrote what he would not leave unspoken again. Every page a vow, every word a bridge. When he returned from the bathroom that evening, he found a note taped to Sophia's window. Crooked, blue ink, written in a hand too young and too sure. Sometimes the healing comes before the waking. Don't stop singing, she hears you. The cameras saw nothing, the staff saw nothing. But Daniel knew. Mwangi had been there. 3 months later, Sophia walked again, unsteady, trembling, but with determination stronger than her steps. Therapy was slow, but each wobble was an act of defiance against silence. Daniel sold what he could. His workshop tools, the second-hand car, the last savings from his European account. But he wasn't buying anymore. He was building. From this sacrifice rose Sautiza Al-Fajiri, Voices at Dawn, a community center where children from Kibera, Nyeri, and beyond could find what Sophia had nearly lost: songs, stories, voices that heal. The first mural painted on its wall showed a barefoot boy in a too-big hoodie, a hand reaching from the shadows offering a song. Beneath it, in bold strokes of blue, he didn't need wings, he had faith. One evening, Daniel Müller and Sophia walked through the old Nairobi railway district. She wore purple rain boots, though the skies were dry. Just in case, she grinned. Mwangi said the best surprises come when you're ready. At the corner beneath a flickering street lamp, they found an old man playing harmonica. A cardboard sign leaned against his foot. You're not lost. You're just not finished yet. Sophia gasped, clutching her father's sleeve. Daddy, that's what he told me. The old man's eyes twinkled. I heard it from a boy once, barefoot, dusty coat, played music with me till one day he vanished, said his name was Mwangi. Sophia's face glowed. He's still out. There. Daniel smiled, a warmth blooming in his chest. Somewhere in some corner of Nairobi, Mwangi's echo lived on. That night, Sophia stood by her bedroom window, staring at the moon. What if Mwangi finds another child lost like me? She whispered. What if no one is singing nearby? Daniel brushed her hair back. Then we must teach the world to sing. So they did. With borrowed microphones and a cheap camera, They created a channel called Mwangi's Echo. They recorded Sophia's drawings, her laughter, Daniel's lullabies from the hospital notebook. In 2 weeks, their videos reached 2 million views. In 4 months, thousands of messages poured in, from ICU beds, prison cells, lonely dorm rooms, and villages across Africa. Each one ended the same. I thought I was lost, but maybe I'm not finished yet. On the 1-year anniversary of her awakening, Sophia stood on a small stage at Sophia Alfajiri. Her knees trembled, but her voice did not. She sang the lullaby that had once bridged silence and life. The audience wept. At the back row, Daniel noticed him, a barefoot boy in a dusty coat sitting quietly, watching with that same steady gaze. Their eyes met. Daniel blinked, and the chair was empty. Later that night, in the hospital corridor where it all began, a soft voice drifted through the stillness. "You did well, Mr. Müller. She doesn't need me anymore. She has you." Daniel turned, but there was only light on polished floors. He smiled, whispering into the quiet, "Danke, Mwangi, asante." Morning broke over Nairobi with a gold sky. At Sophia Alfajiri, children painted new murals, voices rising in songs stitched from many tongues. Daniel wrote in his notebook. Sophia laughed as she taught younger kids the lullaby that had saved her. The world outside called it a medical anomaly. Doctors called it unexplained recovery. But Daniel and Sophia knew better. Miracles weren't thunder and lightning. They were dirt under your nails, a father's voice rediscovered, a barefoot boy reminding the world of what it had forgotten. Sophia raised her face to the sun, hand in her father's, and whispered, "He didn't need wings, he had faith."